What's up, guys? Today we have a legend here in the Denver real estate market, my good buddy Cory Williams. We originally met a few years back when we were at the same brokerage. He has since moved on and started his own thing. He's absolutely crushing it. Was featured on Real Producers a couple of months before me, but here we are. But Cory, what's up, brother? How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing so well, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, to get this off the plate, like we just had our posters handy, so why not have some fun with it? We have such a mutual respect for each other. We're both in this business for the right reasons, and we're leaders in our community. We're leaders in our industry. We've just got a heart and a passion to help people. So it's an honor and a pleasure to get live with you today and have some time to drop some knowledge on everybody that's out there listening.
Yeah, it's wild how we kind of ran congruently for a long time, and then we connected, and almost like brothers off the start, and just really cool to see kind of what you're doing over at Blue Pebble. And then obviously we have the very similar production background. And then now we're both kind of in this coaching kind of field that we're looking at. And you have some very good, I'm the coach. I coached high school hoops for a long time. So I've just kind of carried that over. But you have a little bit of a different analogy and approach to that. So let's talk a little bit about that and where that kind of comes from. Because it's honestly the same things that I say every day, just different words.
100%. And that's the thing, it's really about finding the right guide. I love the hero's journey. I love, the way that Donald Miller turned it into the storybook kind of framework. Great marketing book. And like my story directly kind of is in line with the Karate Kid, man. Like he finds Mr. Miyagi, right? I mean, the kind of path and flow is you got a person that has a problem. How many people do you talk to in a given day that have problems? Okay. Right. You talked about our production, buyers and sellers. They're like, hey, I need to sell a house in this market, right? I got problems, right? It smells like cat pee in here. Or, hey, I've got the perfect house. The problem is I made it perfect and I really don't want to sell it, right? Or we've got agents that are like, I just don't have the support. I'm just not getting the traction I need, right? And so we see where we can hop in there and say, hey, let me be the guide that can take you down that road. And so that's really what my story is about is, we've got so much ego in our business. Look how much production I did. Look at this. Look at that. And really what we're doing is we're making heroes, man. Our clients get to be the hero when we guide them through. I just love analogies. You and I, like you said, you just have always had a passion for that. I was just journaling actually this morning, and it dawned on me that my freshman year, I was an elementary education major. And at some point I decided to switch to communications because I thought, well, I'm not going to make enough money being a teacher. Right. Yeah. And I've got all these people that are on CEO paths around me and blah, blah, blah. And so here I am, 25 years later, just finding myself like you with that calling back to coaching, to guiding. So that's kind of the spin that I have is I position it as like, let's lock arms and work together. This, we got to ask the right questions because everybody's journey is different. But the biggest difference, particularly when it comes to results, is the guide. Who do you choose? Do you pick the right person? So, so yeah, man. So, I had Michael Beninati was my first kind of guide in the real estate industry. He helped me build my production business. I
Hmm.
think it's a family thing for you, right?
Yeah, my dad was my first managing broker. My first, coach guide would probably be Brian Buffini. I went pretty hardcore into that, which I'm sure is, on the tip of your
Okay.
tongue or somewhere along there, ninja or whatever you want to call the
Right.
new age. But yeah, that's kind of where I got my start, and it's really about relationships, right? And it's really easy to find people to build relationships for people like you and I, right? Most of our
Mm.
clients come from those relationships in one connection or another. And it's really easy to find the people that are actually legit in this industry because it's really easy, right? Cory and I sat down, had coffee. He had a production team, which I told him that day. I was like, I don't know about that, Cory, but but I mean, I sent him a couple connections from agents that I had in my organization, and ultimately he went a different direction. But it was really easy just to connect, right? Because who knows where we come down, from that spot, on South Broadway, that coffee date, so to speak, to hanging out at Bronco tailgates now and stuff like that. It's just really about connection, and the people that are uber successful at this understand that and can turn any conversation into a connection. And I think that's, from what I see, is what you do and what I do. And then it's about connecting that to the agents, right? It's not your broker, it's not your team, it's not your commission split, it's not any of that that's holding you back. It's probably something to do with you. Right? And
Yeah.
sometimes to inspire different players, you have different ideas, right? I coached, top notch athletes. I coached freshmen that were just trying to make it and had to go freshman JV, JV maybe again, and then varsity to get that varsity letter, right? And every kid's different and every agent's different. So talk a little bit about your connection points with agents, how you start that process and how you dig deeper, right? Because
Yeah.
we've all heard it. The secret to being successful in real estate is you actually have to do the work. But how realistic is that actually?
Very realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have fond memories of that romantic morning at Corvus. And it's interesting because for the listeners out there that are in this process right now,
Yeah.
right? Did I make the wrong decision that day? Of course not, because it got me where I am today, right? We we
Right.
we we have these whys, but I
Mhm.
also look at what you're doing, and I'm like, this is so aligned with where I'm at and where I want to be, and just to see your success and get to celebrate in that alongside with you's been incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so, in terms of getting that process started, I take a very hands-on approach to
Hmm.
everything, and like you, a very systemized approach. So the
Hmm.
next kind of part of the hero's journey is the guide has to call their people to action. And you said this best: you got to do the work.
Hmm.
And so, hey, man, I've gone this direction and that direction in terms of like just letting people take it out of me, my clients and agents, and man, people that will take advantage of your time and maybe they don't know it, right? So one of the things that I do first is I set some clear boundaries for myself, right?
Hmm.
And then we put a plan together. And this, you can't find a buried treasure if you don't have a map. You'll just be digging holes in the ground all day, right?
Yeah.
And so I very much believe in having a plan of action, and it really depends on where they're coming from, right? Well, I just got started in the business. If I were to put everybody I know on a spreadsheet, it's 50. Okay, well, we got to get more. You have to have much more conversations, right? versus someone like me that came from the construction industry. All I ever did was build relationships for other people. And so it was very easy for me to just serve those people in a new way. So, I really take that. Let's get the map sort of built out, because it's going to be different. Are we going to have to be like door knocking and, running a lot of open houses and possibly calling for some for sale by owners or some expireds? Like, you got to have those real estate conversations, and you got to have them today. Yeah. And so just getting the at bats for the newer agents. And then, with the more refined agents, it's just teaching them the vernacular and the path that we want to take people down. Here's the reality. Buying a house is 100% emotional. Mm-hmm. Selling a house is 1,000% emotional. So what I teach my people to do is be really great emotion managers.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the secret. That's where you go from good to great. So I really want to coach them through that. Are we going to write a very tight contract? Of course we are. There's not going to be missing any blanks. You could tell a lot about an agent by the contract they send you. And so, of course, we're going to have that stuff buttoned up. However, the real art is learning that emotion management and walking them through. And again, knowing the right questions to ask so we can build that right plan. And then, kind of like Mr. Miyagi did, sign him up for the tournament, right? He signs Daniel up for the tournament. It's like, guess what? We're going to battle. And so, really calling people to action and saying, okay, I am here to help you avoid failure. And in the process, you're going to achieve success. So really just taking that step back and saying, hey, how can we make you the hero? And everybody's journey is different, my friend, right? Yeah. What's your vision for your business? You've got a family, man, an amazing family. And you've got, coaching commitments outside. And so you got to keep those things. Those are what make you, you. That's your contribution to your community. That's your contribution to your family. That's your legacy that you're leaving behind, raising your children with your wife, right? And so it's like family comes first. And so I learned so much from my coach now is Austin Chevron. So fellow EXP guy, right? And so I coach with him out of, he's my new Mr. Miyagi. And nobody has better boundaries than Austin Chevron. I have learned so much about, he's made a commitment to his wife. I'll be home every day at 5 o'clock for dinner. And he never misses a 5 o'clock dinner. That's his priority. And if people have a problem with that, he quietly says, no problem. You can work with someone else. But the reality is establishing boundaries is one of the most challenging points. Pro tip here, anybody out there listening, don't fall into the trap in real estate that you can't have boundaries, because it's simply not true. In fact, your people, and this, Jeremy, just from being an attraction magnet, is that the more you're firm in your foundations, in your boundaries, the more of your people are going to come to you.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Open 365, answer my phone all the time. I mean, it's clients, now it's agents, now it's constant, and it's there. And we struggle, right? As entrepreneurs, it's like, we got to go, we got to do it now. We have to, get that next opportunity, build that next relationship. And so it certainly does tax, some of the things that are the very reason why we do what we do. And so establishing boundaries is actually fairly simple. But it's one of the most overlooked and skipped pieces of it. And once you're into it, it's a whole lot different, right? Once it's been one way for a while, it's a whole lot different. And what I've seen through some of my, coaching is just a little perspective, right? I mean, you know, my agent, Taryn King, right? I've literally taken her phone out of her hand and put ride my horses on her Sundays, made it repeating, like, that's it, that's all. Does she follow it every Sunday? Probably not, but it's in there still. And I ask her if it's in there, and she shows me when I do hang out with her. And so that stuff's important, the stuff that really truly separates you, because you can't show up how you want to show up if you're not getting recharged, if you don't have that big why that kind of fuels you. And I talk a lot about whys in some of my presentations, stage presentations, and all of our why is pretty much the same, right? It's, you know, attached to family, another member, or some sort of financial freedom, travel, retirement, some sort of that. I've been in rooms with 350 agents. I say, everybody stand up. I go through those two things. I say, sit down if your why is this. More than half the room sits down. I say, sit down if your why is this. Everybody else sits down, right?
Wow.
So we have to differentiate ourselves a little bit as agents. And so I've come up with this kind of Simon Sinek, I call it Y 2.0, but it's what gets your people that you serve out of bed. What is their why? And how do you get to that? How do you speak to that? Because then that why becomes my Y 2.0. And if I can kind of build my business that way, and I can kind of help people understand in this world of differentiation, right? To attract, I have to differentiate myself from a guy like you, who's very similar coaching. I have to differentiate myself from the number one attractors at my company in my area, right? I have to attract clients. I have to, again, compete with you and usually win, but get that listing appointment over there in Lakewood, right? Just kidding. But it's
No,
about
you're not. I mean,
differentiating
that's good
yourself.
old fashioned competition, brother.
Let's go. But that's how it is. You have to differentiate yourself, and you have to do that. Now, you hit on something that people's vision is different. And I think that's what a lot of coaches miss. Not to say I'm the best coach in the world, but I've watched people crash and burn and frustrate themselves and burn out. And now they're out of production, and now they're out of coaching. Every agent, every person that I coach, it's about their vision, right? So how do you dig into that a little bit and then craft your guide around something along those lines? For instance, some want to make $1 million, some want to make 6 figures, some want to sell 100 houses a year, some want to just sell 6. So how do you kind of differentiate that? How do you dig into that a little bit and use that in your tour guide setup?
Yeah. You know, I love that, right? When we talk about this last phase of the hero's journey, where, you know, you go from taking action on the plan to avoiding failure and achieving success. Those are two very different and extremely the same thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but like I burn out multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Austin Chevron gets it. This is the most important part of his system, in my opinion. And it's run rest cycles. Have you heard of the Iditarod race?
Yeah.
Okay, so for decades, people were winning by minutes or whatever, right? And this guy came in and he wins by like a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to go faster than all of you. I'm going to go farther than all of you. And I'm going to rest myself and my dogs while I do it. And so when Austin was designing his coaching program, he integrated run and rest cycles into the way that you operate within a system. So you run Monday through Thursday every 3 weeks a month, and you rest on Friday in the last week of the month. Now, you and I both know we're not talking about rest, okay? We're talking about working on your business instead of in your business.
Mhm.
And so I, and I know you do this. There's so many coaches out there because I've done them all. You mentioned the first one I started with, Buffini,
Mhm.
done the Tom Ferry and the Tom Ferry and the Ninja. And I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent on self
Mhm.
development, right? Um, and so they're just hammer the phones, go hard in the paint, go harder in the paint, push, 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 push.
Mhm.
And you will burn out, as you said, very fast. And when you find the right guide that grabs your phone out of your hand and says, horses on Sunday, I programmed it into your phone. Okay.
Mhm.
That's when you know that it's like, yes, that's my connection point. That's where I center. Okay. Or for you, it might be, I have to be able to coach. I'm prioritizing my kids' ball games,
Mhm.
whatever the case is. And so this is another pro tip for your listeners out there. You have to build in rest, rejuvenation, and connection time. This thing has made me millions of dollars.
Mhm.
And it's also almost derailed and maybe totally derailed some of my relationships and almost, like my poor wife. That's all I have to say from this thing. And
Mhm.
so, really honing that in, and here I am a decade deep, right? 100 million plus of transactions, countless hours. You know how many headaches, people crying on your shoulder, and and it's like I'm just now learning how to set those boundaries and
Mhm.
how to run and rest appropriately. And so it's a journey, man. It's all about the different seasons. And the reality is, for every season, you have to adjust appropriately. So, somebody that's getting started in this business in a market like this, you want to win, you're going to have to run harder than anybody else when it's time to run. And on the rest cycles, you better optimize your systems in a way and be able to read the data and understand what's going on and make adjustments better than anyone else if you want to win. So I just love the idea and the concept of
Mhm.
establishing those boundaries, holding hard, getting your run and rest cycles or whatever you want to call them, and just making sure that you've got bumpers in place so you're not finding yourself in the gutter again and again.
Yeah, and
Um,
let's talk a little bit about that last piece because you mentioned the market. Currently, time of this recording, the market is very different. I've been in 11 years, you've been in 10. We're right there, right? Like I said, long lost brothers that never knew each other. And um, but how have you sustained success in your production business despite the markets that we've been in? Right. I just talked to another one of my agents, Taylor. She said she just closed a deal with UNM the other day. Right. She said to tell you hello. There you go. I did it. But
Great deal.
let's
Great
let's
deal.
talk about that as we kind of, go to this next level. Right. Because you and I have both established a production through our relationships that, yeah, we're affected by the market, but we're not failing to provide. We're not failing to, invest in our businesses as a result. So, how have you done that? And as the market changes, what's kind of your mindset that you really need to go into to make that adjustment on the fly?
Yeah. Steve Jobs always said that you can only judge yourself looking back, only
Mm-hmm.
analyze yourself looking back. And so as I'm sitting here going, okay, well, these are different times. It's a little bit thinner now than it has been in the past. This thing's not ringing as much anymore. So do I go out there and make, 300 calls today, and hit the panic button? Um, the answer truly, and this goes back to where we started this conversation, is us having that heart of service. And so we have built our business on that, on service. And people know that when they come to us, that we're going to put our preconceived sort of, there's a lot of agents out there, let's just say, that have commission breath. Okay. And so we put all of that aside and guide our clients through making the right decision. And probably 6 years ago, I had an intern, and he spent a month with me in January, and he was right in this car seat next to me. Our mobile offices.
You had to buckle him in. Well, this is an intern, Cory. Just kidding.
And he said to me once, he said, "Hey, you know what? I never knew anybody could be so successful by being genuine." It's probably the best compliment I've ever received. And I draw off of that, Jeremy. I draw off of that. And my motto going into 2025 is I'm looking for people that are looking for me. Because that, when you get started in this business, like if they can fog a mirror and write an earnest money check, like we're going to work with them. We've got to. And as we've moved on, we're like, oh, you don't respect my boundaries? Cool. Go find somebody on Zillow. Right.
Yeah.
So I have felt this way forever and ever. Amen. And Brian Buffini was the first person that taught me this. And same thing with you. If you want to build a business that sustains market ups and downs, because you'll have them. We didn't have any for a good long bit here in Colorado, but we sure have some market turbulence right now. Then you build your business this way, and you build it on a foundation of relationships. You build it on a foundation of giving. Zig Ziglar said, "Hey, you can have everything you want in this life as long as you help everybody else get what they want first."
Yeah.
Now, we just talked about burnout. And so I operated on that premise for the first 9 years of my business until I met Austin. And it was like, hang on, now that's just a little bit flawed. That's a little bit flawed because I need to protect myself and my energy and my family and be able to give back in other ways, not just to my business, to my marriage, and so when you build a business this way, and listen, you've seen it, and we would love to be able to provide leads to our people, right? I would love to just toss deals around left and right or produce them off of Google Ads or Facebook or whatever. What I'm not going to do is give Zillow 40%, half of a commission check, because I know that they're out there to take our industry out. And so those are parameters that I've drawn, and I've had agents like, hey, that's what I'm looking for. That's how I want to build my business. Those aren't my people. Those aren't the people that I'm looking for. I'm looking for people, because I can't teach you how to do things that I haven't done, really. Can I help you on scripts and coach you once you get a listing appointment? You can get into someone's house. By all means, you should take me with you. Let's go in there. It's a 2-for-1, right? But it's really building that business, Jeremy, and you know this, and it's why you built your business the way you did, is if you want to weather the storms, you have to have a firm foundation. And it's all based on relationships and contributions.
Yep. And I would say that's the one thing that I own. right? I own those relationships, not
Yeah.
just in, not being cocky or anything like that, but those are mine, right? I've
Yes.
created them. I've worked hard for them. When you're talking with something, and 49 to 52 in my best year were sphere of influence or repeat client referrals, right? That's my whole business in a massively successful year. And when you're talking about Zillow, it's a little bit harder, right? I didn't build my business that way. Now, what I have helped people do is get off of Zillow, because you have some of the reps, you have those pieces, you have all of that. In fact, my sponsor, Louis Galt here at EXP, even the day I met him, I was like, we got to get you off that Zillow train. Well, he's not in production anymore. He's doing his coaching thing himself. But as we kind of adapted through that, it was really easy for him to really go all in on his jiu-jitsu gym, right? And really go in on his community around him, his neighborhood, and those kind of things. And then he does have the repeat clients that he did have from Zillow prior. And so there's nothing wrong with that approach. However, it's a lot easier to build a relationship one-on-one with somebody instead of meeting, hey, let's go to meet me in the car. We're going to this listing. Maybe I'll click your face next time, maybe not, with that kind of stuff, because you have a lot shorter window to build that rapport and turn that relationship into a client. So that's really cool how you've kind of, broken that down. And so let's talk about kind of next steps with the guide, right? So we've talked new agents, we've talked middle tier agents, we've talked where they want to go, right? What are their goals? You can't build them for them. How's that accountability piece that you know so well through your genuine approach? How is that? Does that look under your guidance?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, you've heard the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my goodness, man, I've like shoved the horse's head in the water before, right? Like drink. I'm using an analogy here, a forceful analogy. So I haven't actually done that. However, you get the idea,
Yeah.
right? It's like, man, I have just banged my head against the wall. And so for me, it's very simple. Okay. I'll deliver the bricks to you. You're going to stack them. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bring them up on a semi trailer. I got that little donkey on the back, roll the little donkey off, go up there, get the bricks, and I pull them right over to your job site. Okay. We've already built the foundation, right? We put everything together. We built a business plan. We've at least got a roadmap, right? Do we need a full-on business plan? I don't know. It depends on how they learn. But we got a roadmap of what it's going to take to get there. And I'm going to drop the bricks, and then I'm going to put my donkey back on the truck, and, I'm going to drive away. Now, you can catch me on the CB. Like I said, I'll come back. Hey, I'm not sure. Like, man, I feel like this course kind of got off. I was stacking these bricks, and I feel like this course is starting to get off of my plumb line here. What should I do? That's where the guide steps in and says, I see what happened back here. You see right here where you got this mud, and then it's all off from this point. So let's start back over. Okay. And so you were talking about sort of that wisdom and that experience. Okay. And so that's where choosing the right guide is so important. And so I know, and I set this expectation for my clients. listen, am I a great motivator? Absolutely. I mean, I love, like picking people up. I
Yeah.
love that. It's a gift of mine. So I love motivating, right? I love, like, I'm taking a page out of that playbook. Next speech I do, I'm gonna have people stand up, the two crowds. But I love
Good
motivating.
one. Gets them moving and everything. It's
I
all the
know.
thing.
I'm like, God, this is a whole thing. This is a
Yeah.
whole thing. And it proves such a great point. I digress. So, it's that concept of like, pick a person that can get you through that tight situation. And not real estate happens nights and weekends.
Mhm.
The reality is, like, as a coach, you do have to be there when the rubber meets the road. As a guide, you have to be there when the rubber meets the road. When we're kind of like getting everything from the inspection objection, we've only got so many hours in the day to get that built out and stacked out. And those first inspection objections you send out, boy, I want to see them. We got to get the language right. That's how you protect your clients. That's where I come into play. Not like, did you make all your calls today? Okay. Like, I've drugged people up the hill many times, and it burns me out. So it's like, we're adults here. You're running a business. There's nothing more entrepreneurial than real estate. You're the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CRO, all the hats. Okay. And now, can we delegate those off as time goes on? Yeah, we'll get to that. However, I'm in a new season of life where it's like, either you're going to stack the bricks or you're not. Either way, it's okay with me. But when that course gets off and you got a problem with your build, I'm the guy that's going to come in and get back to that point and figure it out. Same thing on a transaction. Where did it go wrong? Where did we miss in communication here? Why are we at the point we're at? And having the foresight to make sure, 9 times out of 10, that we don't even get there in the first place. So that is a little. It's a new season for me, my friend. Where it's like, if you're going to come in and look for somebody that's going to micromanage you, you're going to have to find a different guide.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting. And guys like you and me, I mean, I kind of fought with this as I was growing my organization and what my value was as a leader, as a coach, right? Because to guys like me and you, it seems natural, right? Like, to have that relationship, to follow up, to do the things, right? I would imagine early on in your career, you weren't like by the book CRM every single day, like 100% on it.
Yeah.
Early on.
Yeah.
Right?
No comment.
Right. I'm telling you right now that most top producers wish they started their CRM day one. And when their top producers are still wishing they started it. but
Yeah.
as we move forward here, it's about understanding what we possess, or what I possess. My turning point was like, this is a superpower, right? How I've built my business and how I've connected that HVAC contractor to 20 people that he's served, and he's, treated them fairly and done a great job. And then now he's the one that's referring me to other people. And all of my people are telling me if they need anything, whether it's your furnace or plumbing or whatever, to call me, right? That is a very strategically set up plan that I can put into a course, that I can put into something, that I can create the boundary to say, okay, this is how you're going to set up your business. You have create your own journey. This is what I'm good at. This is what I've done. Here it is for you. Right. And then you get into this next layer of, okay, like, let's one-on-one, right? When you get to that next layer of people, that have done the inspections and done the things, and myself being national, some of those things are different. So I don't lean as much into that, right? I lean more into, these are the actions you need to take to create a sustainable business, that no matter what, this is what your client journey should look like. Build it. Here's what I do. Take it and build it for your own, because you're very different than me. And so I think there's a point there where it's like, okay, how can we create the course? And I think the very, very difference in this oversaturated real estate agent coach market in this technological age is that not only are we doing it, we're doing it at a very high level, but it starts with the ability and the passion to serve other people. And so now it's just taking that and creating that into, a profitable income stream, right? If we're coaching, if we're spending our time's valuable. There's definitely, reasons for that. So as far as that goes, talk to me a little bit about okay, is it just, hey, Cory, what's up? Or are you going to create, guides, blueprints, or is it just one-on-one, fly by the seat of our pants? What's that future look like for the guide?
Yeah. So Dan Martell has this process that he uses. Pro tip, if you haven't read Buy Back Your Time, put it on your read list. So to all the listeners out there, put that one on your reading list. It's a must read. But he has the 1-3-1 method. And so the 1-3-1 method looks like this. It's clearly define exactly what the problem is, present 3 viable options, and then the last one is tell me what you think you should do. And this is what sort of how I summarize what Cory the guide brings to the table is contextual coaching. Mm-hmm. And in order for me to gain context and truly coach someone, I need to know where they're at. You know this, you bring on brand new agents and you bring on seasoned agents. And everybody brings their own background. You got people like Adam that are highly technical. You got people like Taryn that are bringing, this wholesome and like background. And I mean, you've got the full gamut. You got Mr. Jiu-Jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so everybody brings their own skill set, and I cannot coach someone productively without first knowing where they are. And that 1-3-1 helps me to understand where they're at. And it also is a way to build neural pathways in your brain so that I'm not just giving you the answers. Yeah. Because that is no way to learn. Just being given the answers. You have to explore how to get there and build those neural pathways, because the most important part of my contextual coaching is that I am then going to show you how that can apply to 5 suspiciously similar situations in the future. Oh, and I can rattle off examples. Mm-hmm. And that is going to help you in your maturation as an agent far more, right? We talked early on about how people are, Daniel's son was learning karate out of a book before Mr. Miyagi came along. Mm-hmm. And there's no book out there, no YouTube video that is going to bring the level in context that I am going to bring to the table, or you, or other great guides out there, the Austin Chevrons and the Brian Buffinis. The context that we bring to those situations makes people experts at a much faster rate, and they are able to bring high-level expertise to their clients and build this business that we're talking about. Because the first part is forming that relationship, then you maintain it, and then you've got to perform. Because if you want referrals, your clients have to have an incredible experience. So all of that to say is that I just wrap everything that I do up in one bow, and it is contextual coaching. And that's the methodology that I use. And I lay it all out. So when someone comes on my team, you know exactly when you need to go into the resource drive. You know exactly when you need to call somebody else on the team, because I'm not the only leader on this team, and I'm not going to be the only resource on this team either. And when it's appropriate to call me. And so I lay that groundwork and set it up, because I'm building a team of great agents, and it's an ecosystem that I'm building. Not just it's not an ego system. It's not, hey, I know everything and you need to come to me. It's ego, right? And there's so many ecosystems out there. You see them every day. So pro tip, agents, watch out for ecosystems. They're a dime a dozen. Look for that ecosystem where you can plug in, join hands, be part of a community that lifts each other up, that, that provides expert information, that is there to, teach, train, mentor, because I can't be everywhere at once. I've learned so many things in a decade of real estate, still haven't learned how to be two places at once. So
that cell phone might get us there. AI might get us there one day, but we'll see. Not quite yet. But yeah, that's incredible, Cory. And, I just thank you for your friendship, your service to our industry, and being a resource to me, right? Because within our circles, within our network, that's exactly what we are. We're at different brokerages. We were at the same brokerage in different organizations, but it's always like, hey man, how you doing? Right? Checking in with each other. Hey, I've got a question about this. Hey, your team's calling me again. I told them to ask Cory when I was coming over, those kind of things, right? But it's fun. It's all in good fun, but it's also a resource. And that's a super important piece, because we've mentioned a couple agents on, this podcast that are within my ecosystem that Cory knows. And the honest truth is, the agents that are at the top, that are serving in an ecosystem, not an ecosystem, I like that one, are all collaborating, working together. When Cory approached me and said he was leaving our company, I was excited for him. So you got to take that opportunity, go for it, right? And we've continued to stay friends, but you also have to understand that it's very small world, right? I was talking to my agent Taylor earlier. She's like, "Oh, I just did a deal with Cory," right? The people that are in it for the right reasons, the coaches that are in it for the right reasons, the agents that are actually producing and doing well, are all interconnected. And we're not afraid to, bounce people back and forth and help people out and say, "Hey, Cory, got this situation. You ever seen this?" Those kind of things are invaluable when you get into an industry that sometimes seems like it's a dog eat dog, pit bull fight. And so I appreciate that, Cory, and I appreciate your friendship.
I feel the same way, brother. Ditto, my friend. We've definitely, we have a real fun time with it. And that's what makes life worth living.
Perfect. So for the listeners on my side, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? I'll definitely put it below, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth himself.
Yeah. Just find me on Instagram at Cory the Guide. I got hacked yesterday, so my Facebook account shut down. Somebody was posting lewd information on my LinkedIn page. Anyway, it's the world we live in, brother. So find me on the Instagram, Cory the Guide, and just find that right guide that's out there for you, agents that are listening. Man, we just really covered a lot of ground today, and I'm grateful for you taking the time to have me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, cheers. Shout out to James Ryan, Real Producers, that hooked us up with the sweet magazines behind us, Gavin Ekstrom. And we'll see you guys next time.
So long.